Hello, today, I'm going to show you how to make an interaction with NPC characters. By giving them something, in return they will give you some objects and stored in your inventory. In order to do that, firstly we have to build a simple dialogue system within the program and create a new inventory system to store the objects in response to the NPC. Let's take a look on how I created all of them in simplified ways. Let's get started. We are now in TMX Tile Editor. Firstly, I made a simple sprites with different objects as you see on the right. We have some potions, meat, scroll, weapons, etc. you name it. We need these objects so that I can demonstrate how I can display them, use them and interact with all these objects with NPC, which are the adventure game elements. Let's look for one location that I could place a food here, for example. Click and enlarge the object size to something you want it to be. That is the beef. Let's give it a name called food. Let's save this. Beef is now in here. Now here is the main game and run the codes. Now let's move to this and you can see the beef in this location. Let me show you the inventory data I built here. Inventory of player will have a bag, and that bag will have the beef. Let's remove one object from my original list. Now we have a fish, a sword, and an empty scroll. Let's run the game. Here you see we have 3 objects on the top corresponding to the list. I want to collect this beef, however, I added this object to the collision sprites so that it will create collision to the player. Let's resolve it later. When you approach the NPC, the dialogue started. He's asking some food. Let's go inside the house and see if we could get something. It looks like nothing can be collected. Right, let's go outside the house. Now we are back to the TMX map. You can see here the name is food. So here I would say if obj.name is equal to food, we want to add this object sprite. Let's copy and paste here. Now we would like to build a new group called item sprites. This is for collection of objects. I build this group here so I added item sprite group here. So if this is food, this will be used for item sprites group instead of collision group. In Pygame, we usually define the group to contain different items types. For example, if this is for collision or if this is for collection, or even for the enemy group which can be eliminated, something like that. Now as you can see, if the object is a food, then I will put it in items group which can be collected to the inventory. If this is different from food, the objects will be put in the collision sprites groups which will cause collision to the player. Now I created the items group. Let's pass this group self.itemSprites to another function within the self.inventory.update. As you see a red line because I gave 3 arguments instead of 2, so instead the inventory.py we added back the item sprites to it here. So item sprites, so I can pass this item from the level.py to the inventory.py. We can say for item in self.itemSprites, then we are going to check if the player is hitting the item sprite group. We used collide rect function to check the collision between the item and the player. And if we are hitting the item sprites here, if this is true, the object should be added to your inventory. I had already made another function which is called addItem. This function will just add the item we just collected to your inventory. We firstly calculate the x, y coordinates and getting the sprites images of the inventory according to the name, and then make an instance of inventory sprites, and finally add it to the self.inventory sprites list. Now let's call this function self.addItem, and the item to add of course is beef. By passing the item.name to the self.addItem, we can retrieve the images using the name attributes of the item, to access the image with the name beef. Okay, let's make a new class called item sprites. That class is to inherit another sprite class I built earlier on. And as usual, we used dunder init method to do the initialization, and the items to inherit would be the position, image, and groups. Let's copy the same attributes from the object sprites and put in here as well. Now we built a new class. To use it, we need to import the item sprites in the level.py. And here let's modify the object sprites to item sprites so that we can differentiate between general objects and food objects. Let's run the game. Here you go. Food is created. Looks like we had an error. Seems like there is no name attribute. To solve this, we need to add name attribute. And then self.name equals name. Due to the new argument set up, we have to add the new argument to item sprites class. Let's do it. obj.name. However, this name should not be food, since there is no items named food in our inventory data, so we have to change the name to beef. Let's go back to the TMX map and change the name of the object to be beef. In such case, it should work. Now we are back to the TMX map again. Let's change the name from food to beef. After that, save the file. Let's correct the food to beef in our code correspondingly. Everything looks fine, and let's run it. Let's try to collect the beef. Oops, there's so many of them. The reason is that the game loop is actually running 60 frames per second. By the time you collect the object, actually, you already gone through the codes for multiple times so that you will see many objects in your inventory. To correct this, we need two things. First of all, you need to set a timer. I had built the timer class earlier. If you are interested, I can share this timer class code. Secondly, we need to kill the item in the map when we collect it. Reason is that if we don't kill the items will be generated multiple times as well, so that you are also keep on collecting more objects. When the player is colliding with the beef object, when the timer is off, then we switch on the timer. Let's use the timer function to switch on it. Self.timer.timer on. Next, we have one more thing to do, is to remove the item on the screen when the player is touching it. Now let's type item.kill once we collect it. The item should be erased. Let's run it and see if this is working. Yep, here you go. When you touch the item, it was erased on the screen, and in your inventory icon, you are able to see this beef object. Awesome. Now let's talk to the NPC and see what happens. The NPC is saying he wants some food. Look, I have some beef in my inventory. When you click on the beef icon, you will see there's a window to show up, whether you want to use it, scrap it, or exit the window. If you look at the codes, I stored all the description of the item under the inventory data dictionary. It shows under the keys called beef. The description will be, beef, a delicious food. It's exactly the statement in the inventory window. When we click on the exit, the window just disappears on the screen. Now let's try to click on the use button. Look, when I click it, nothing happens. Let's do it again. Ops, look like some error happening. Let's look at the code. It looks like I reversed the sequence. I should have added this item to the inventory firstly before deleting the item on the screen. If in reverse, if we delete it first, there's nothing to add to your inventory. Now let's go for the NPC called stranger's response. If the self.current item Name is beef, then we change the NPC state, then we remove the item beef, and then add another item called blue potion for exchange. Let's try and run again. Now I collected the beef, alright. Then we go to the NPC and start the conversation. Look, when I click on the use icon, here we go. The blue potion now appear in your inventory. When I click on the use button twice, it looks that the blue potion increased, so there must be a checkpoint for this, to prevent the potion keep on adding to the inventory. To control this, we have to add one more attribute to the class. Let's call self.getBeef. By default, it's set to be false. When we got the beef, this attribute will set to true. Let's move this attribute to the setup which only run once. Everything looks fine, now it's time to test it. Get the beef, right, and take it to the stranger. Let's talk to him. Give him a food. Click on the food, then press the use button. Yes, here we go. The blue potion show up in the inventory. As you can see, after giving the food to him, different dialogue was seen. He said thanks to me. And good day. Great. When you click on the blue potion you just got, you will see a new description. It's a bottle of blue potion. So that's the end of this video. Hope you find it useful. See you. Bye-bye.